Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome to Talking Politics this Friday morning. My name is Robert Press. I'm a reporter, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I write for the Bronx Post, which, like this show, is part of Parrot Media Corporation. I also have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com, where you'll see more about some of the stories we talk about, and Facebook pages 100% and what is going on in your community board. My co-host, Anthony Rivieccio, is the founder of Northwest Bronx Democrats and has a Facebook page, Northwest Bronx Democrats, which is highly active. The views expressed on the show are those of the host, any guest, or anyone commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. Now, Mr. Producer, we're going to have to update our opening because I see President Joe Biden is still there, and Donald Trump has been now in office over a year. And let's go to the weather report today. Friday, the high should get up to about 45, with the high on Saturday, tomorrow, going to up to over 50 to 51, which should melt some snow, but then it's downhill on Sunday to 37 and below freezing for a high of 31 on Monday. So don't put those winter coats away just yet, as you may see some snow Monday. Moving on, conversations are happening in and around the White House about sequencing of airstrikes on Iran, with U.S. officials suggesting the politics would be better domestically if Israel was to deliver the first attack. The primary question is being when and how the U.S. attacks. On Tuesday night, Trump used his State of the Union address to claim Iran is starting its nuclear program all over, following last summer's U.S. airstrikes, while also working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. The astonishing U.S. military buildup continues. The Jerusalem Post revealed a squadron of F-22s, an advanced fighter jet the U.S. government has banned from being exported to even its closest allies, have just landed in Israel yesterday. This is for the first time ever that the America has deployed combat aircraft to the country for a potential wartime mission. So what happens next? It's been a week since Trump gave Iran 10 or 15 days now behind us. The U.S. aircraft carriers are broadly in position. The negotiations are obviously still playing out, as Secretary Marco Rubio is due to hold talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday, and he just completed talks with the Iranian diplomats. On to Hillary Clinton testifying before a congressional committee investigating the Jeffrey Epstein files. Madam Clinton said, "I know nothing," sounds like an old TV show, Hogan's Heroes there was a sergeant, about him. Former President Bill Clinton is testifying right now before the committee, so next week we probably will have what he has to say. Let's get to the State of the Union, because the president rattled through his biggest achievements. He hailed Americans' heroes. He brought powerful personal stories to his policy messages. He tore into his opponents with remorseless venom, and above all, he mostly stayed on script. CNN conducted its regular snap survey of people watching the State of the Union, a cohort that usually, or unsurprisingly this year, tilted 13% more Republican than the average population. About two-thirds of them liked the speech. The same CNN polling showed 64% of speech watchers felt the country is headed in the right direction, similar numbers to those Trump landed after previous addresses to Congress. And encouragingly for the White House, the number shifted over the course of the speech from 54% beforehand. So he gained a lot by the speech. It was striking how the president saved all his vitriol for his opponents. Democrats were crazy, sick people who should be ashamed of themselves. He attacked the Biden administration over inflation, border control, gasoline prices, and housing at one point. He appeared to address Representative Ilhan Omar from Minnesota directly as he vented about the Somali community in Minnesota. There were no attacks on Republicans who have defied him over the past 6 months, and there were no direct attacks on the Supreme Court justices who sat before him, even though 3 of the 4 had voted down his tariffs last week. Each guest was deployed in a powerful effect. The arrival of the triumphant men's hockey team was a moment, as was the sight of widowed Erica Kirk comforting the weeping mother of a murdered Erna Zarsky. We got the heroes of the Venezuela operation and a freed Venezuelan dissident. We got Andrew Wolf, the National Guard troop attacked in D.C., and the family of his fallen colleague. We got brave young children and brave 100-year-old heroes. We got the beneficiaries of Trump's tax cuts and Trump's price cut drugs. What was missing was a vision of the future. To hear the president speak, the job is already done. The border is fixed. The economy is booming. Prices are rapidly coming down. The other problem was the speech was 1 hour and 47 minutes. It was the longest State of the Union address in American history. The New York Post editorial board weighed in, running the headline, Trump's home run State of the Union 2026 showed exactly how crazy the Democrats are. Now, my co-host, Anthony, is going to go into the economic side of the State of the Union. So can we bring on Anthony and his segment on the State of the Union economic? Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
We're going to spend our segment, our 10 to 15 minute segment, talking about what I would like to talk about would be the economic portions of his 2 hour speech. Now, what I'm going to attempt to do, because it was so much, is chop it up into segments. And I've chopped it up into 3 segments when he spoke about economic policies in somewhat of a fashion. And you're going to see a pattern is going to arise. After I cover these areas, then I'm going to fact check these areas. And you should know I probably grew about 2 or 3 gray hairs last night fact checking all of these, let's call them allegations, right? So in these 3 chunks that I'm talking about, we'll take them one at a time. And the first chunk, you could say it was the first 30 minutes of the speech. In the first 30 minutes of the speech, in my opinion, he talked a whole bunch of economic stuff. Let's call it stuff. I'm going to repeat some of this stuff, and then I'm going to tell you what I found at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So in the first 30 minutes of his speech, of course, he goes on to say that our nation is back. Richer.
Anthony, can you fix your screen a little bit? You're at the bottom of the screen. We want to see more of you. Or sit up on a telephone book as people used to do.
Hold on. Hold on. I want you to call me after the show, okay?
Okay, no problem. But that's a little better. Center yourself.
Hold on, brother. Relax.
The problem is Anthony's on his cell phone right now. I'm on a computer, so.
The problem is, and it's not a problem, is that we are using StreamYard, which of course is a problem because you can't get it to circulate. And then of course, yes, I am on my telephone, so I apologize, everyone. I'm not going to use my laptop because you're also looking at a stressed income tax man.
Okay.
If you need your taxes done, feel free to give me a call. 347-575-5045. That's what you get for waiting 10 minutes to put me on air. Now, is that better?
Well, can you raise it a little? We got to. We see
Sure,
you see the ceiling and the wall in the background.
I can make it bigger than me. How's that?
We want to see you, Anthony. Okay,
Want to see me? I don't know why.
That's a little better, but okay. Well, let's continue anyway.
Worse as opposed to better. Okay. Really? That's better than you? Hold on. Oh, brother. See, this is why you guys don't prepare. And
yeah, that's good, Anthony. That's good.
Of course, that was good. That was the original. You told me to put it up when I was supposed to be putting it down. Again, it's called lack of preparation, right? Can you tell me why 11 minutes after you was on the air, I'm supposed to be a co-host?
Anthony,
why am I coming on now? Can you also tell me why we're not bantering, that I got edited and I got muted? Right? I mean, can you answer these questions for me? I like to know the answers.
We'll talk about it after
President Trump.
Yes.
Right? Because we're going to handle those problems today.
After the show.
Right? Right. Correct. So let's get back to President Trump. So as I was indicating in the first 30 minutes of his speech, he said that 12 months ago, and you have to understand his wording, because what gets him away, what he gets away with in some of his fact checking is his wording and vision of events. So in the beginning of his first 30 minutes, he went on to talk about how 12 months ago, so now remember, right, 12 months ago, that's 1 year. 1 year ago, he inherited a mess. So you would think that anything that he says from that moment forward, you would think should be compared to 1 year ago, right? No, he flips that right around, and then he talks about 4 years ago. He talks about how 4 years ago, inflation was at its highest, and now it's plummeting. He talks about how 4 years ago, incomes were down, and now they're rising. He talks about how inflation, he mentioned inflation 4 times, by the way. So obviously inflation is very important to him. He said how inflation was the lowest in 5 years. And then he goes on to say how it went as low as 1.7%. All right. I think I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to find that. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then he talks about gasoline, right? How it was $6. Really? $6? Okay.
Yeah, it was, Anthony. Yeah, it was.
From $6 to $2.37 to $1.99. That's exact. These are his words, not mine. I'll give you my national fact-checking numbers in a moment.
Well, Anthony, I heard him say $1.88.
I'm only repeating what he said, Bob. Well, you can say, I mean, how can you fact-check $6? Go ahead.
I paid $5.50 for gas.
No, you paid it? Where did you pay it at?
I don't remember, but I paid it one time.
You're going to be like some of the people on my page. You're going to give me an answer, but you don't remember. That's one of the reasons why my page is so active, by the way.
It was like 3 years ago. Okay, let's continue. What else did you fact check on?
As I was saying.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Gas he quoted was at $6, and then he said it went down to $2.37. Then he said it went down to $1.99, and then he said he went to Timbuktu land and found it for $1.88.
That's what I said.
Right? Again, I'm quoting him. Right? I'm not making things up or saying I bought it at the grocery store. Right? He also said mortgage rates were the lowest in 4 years. He also said that there was record job growth in the private sector. These were all of the things he said in the first 30 minutes of his speech. Fact check time. Let's talk about inflation. Well, remember, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, I said he started off talking about a 1 year variance, right? And then he went into a 4 year variance. So I'm going to give you some fact checking numbers on a year by year and 4 year basis. So let's talk about inflation. 4 years ago, yes, 2022, one of the worst times in our economy. Inflation was at 8%. And then in 2023, it went down to 4.1. And then in 2024, it went down to 2.9. And in 2025, it's at 2.6. As of 2026, it is now estimated, based on wholesale reports that came out this morning, at 2.9. My suspicion is that by the end of the year, that might grow a little higher to maybe 3.0, 3.1. Was Donald Trump correct in his statements? Yes and no. Right? He was right in regards to a 4-year variance. In regards to a 1-year variance, what did it change? It's basically been stagnant, right? 2.6, 2.9. I'm not saying those are good numbers, but those are stagnant numbers. When you compare it to 4 years, oh yeah, it's a very big drop. So was he fact check correct? Yes, no.
Next item.
Income. Well, in 2022, income was up 6%. It was up to 7 on a national level. These are national numbers, by the way. $76,000 a year, and it went up 6%. In 2024, it went down 3%. In 2025, it was stagnant. And in 2026, as we speak now, it is estimated at 6%. Some of that being GDP growth, some of that being inflation growth. So is incomes rising? Yeah, he's right. Let's talk about gasoline.
You spoke about that.
Like your favorite subject. In 2022, the national average was $4.06. If it was higher before then, which I won't disagree, he didn't mention that, right? He didn't say he found something in 1937, right? So in 2022, the national average was $4.06. In 2023, the national average was $3.43. 2025, it was $3.10. 2026, it was national average. It is now at $2.97. The price of gasoline gone down from a 4-year variable to a 1-year variable? Yes, it has. But I think it's also fair to say, and again, I got the numbers right here, gasoline year over year has gone down minimal 3 to 5%. Again, whereas if you compare it to 2022, notice the pattern, right? So again, and by the way, the pattern is true. 2022 was a very bad year for the economy. So looking at any numbers in comparison to 2022, sure, those numbers are going to be, most of the stats are going to be very favorable. But if you compare them, 2025, 2026, he is minimally correct. So in the first third of his statement, those are the fact-checking results. If I, as a college professor, if I had to give this a grade, what would I give it? I'd give it a B. I'd give it an A. So let's get to the second phase of his speech. And it was 15 minutes after the first 30 minutes that he started talking about wonderful things like the big, beautiful bill. And how the big, beautiful bill, he indicated, gave us the largest tax cut in United States history. And then he went on to talk about his wonderful Trump accounts that, by the way, according to him, he did not name, right? That's amazing. All this stuff with his name on it that he did not name. But he doesn't say who named it, right? I'm waiting for him to tell me that, right? Who named it, right? He keeps saying he didn't name it. Trump accounts, right? He says that people can get up to $100,000 at the age of 18. Right? That's what he said. Fact check time. Well, the big, beautiful bill is a tax cut bill, but it's not the largest in American history. It's the 6th largest in American history, because the largest one in American history was in 1981 from Ronald Reagan. The second and the third one, by the way, was in 1945 and 1948 by a wonderful president by the name of Harry Truman. And then the fourth one was a wonderful one in 2012 by President Barack Obama. So no, he was actually very inaccurate, right, in that statement. And let's talk about the Trump account. Well, you know, it's very hard to give a very accurate answer with something like that, right? Because remember, he says he's going to give you a contribution annually of $1,000, right? And you can invest it wherever you want. Well, Robert, you know, as we indicated in the promotion for this week, right? You go to the bank, you counted your billions of dollars, right? Wouldn't you agree that it would be a lot harder to have those billions at a 3% interest rate versus a 10 to 20% interest rate?
Yeah, well, Tony, I'm in the market. And
Exactly.
the market
Exactly.
is booming.
No, but this is my point. My point being, okay, so how do you get to that $100,000? Right? How aggressive do I have to invest to get to that $100,000? I made a statement. I said you can buy this, or I'm going to give it to you. Actually, you ain't got to buy it, right? I'm going to give it to you, and by the age of 18, it's going to be valued this much. That's not guaranteed, right? Didn't you just say, right? Well, I got to invest in the market to get that, right? Is the market guaranteed?
No.
The market's not guaranteed, right? And you would actually have to invest very aggressively, right, to do something like that.
Yeah,
right?
as the president said, it was over 50,000, and now it's back under. It's at 49, about 600. So it goes up and down. It fluctuates. There are
okay, well, what the president forgot to tell you, what the president forgot to tell you is that unless he increases the contribution to $3,000 a year as opposed to $1,000, which is what it is now, right? Mm-hmm. That account would have to get 60% a year. So was he right? Yes. Right? It's like the old life insurance salesman, right? I knock on your door. Hey, Bob, you can put it with this company on paper. It says you're going to get 100%, right? All you got to do is sign here, and I'll see you tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this sounds like to me. So I got to give him a very low grade on that, right? So you take that second segment together, in my economic opinion, and I'm going to give him a 3, right? A 3 out of 10. So before I go to the third and final segment, it sounds like you got a question.
No, I don't, because we're starting to run out of time. So,
okay, so third.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Welcome back. I'm sorry we cut Tony off there. Are you back with us, Tony? All right, let me move on then to other news. Governor Kathy Hochul has agreed that to debate her opponent, Bruce Blakeman, who she leads by 17 points in the latest Marist poll. And Governor Hochul's team has announced this morning that she is officially sitting out of the state's matching funds program. The decision means Hochul will not receive 3.5. Now, what's this? Okay. She will not receive $3.5 million in public funding for her campaign, but it means that she won't be required to participate in a debate organized by the Public Campaign Finance Board, although her campaign confirms, like I said, that she will indeed commit to a debate this fall. 4 years ago, Hochul only agreed to one late October debate with Republican Lee Zeldin after weeks of bickering over the terms of the engagement. Now, Governor, is Tony back with us? Because this is for him. I guess not. I don't see him up yet. Governor Hochul has appointed John Caglia as acting executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management. He will serve as the acting head until he is confirmed by the state Senate. And as far as the state legislature goes, it seems there's going to be an exodus of 16 lawmakers from both parties who said they won't seek re-election this year. As for the state Senate, State Senator Michael Gianaris, a Democrat from Queens, Brian Kavanaugh, a Democrat from Manhattan, and Alexis Week, a Republican from Long Island, are not seeking re-election. In the Assembly, it's William Barkley, a Republican from Central New York, Deborah Glick, Democrat from Manhattan, Stacey Pfeffer Amato, a Democrat from Queens, Donna Lupardo, a Democrat from Binghamton, Marianne Bodiscon, a Democrat from Utica, Nadia Said, a Democrat from Yonkers, Vivian Cook, a Democrat from Queens, Kenneth Blackenbush, a Republican from North County, Brian Mantlo, a Republican from Figure Lakes, Angelo Moreno, a Republican from Western New York, David McDew, a Republican from Long Island, Daniel Norbert, a Republican from Nassau County, and Keith Brown, a Republican from Suffolk County. And as of Tuesday, the 24th, petitioning began and runs through the first week of April. We will try and have an update on petitions on who is running and where they're running, either next week or in future shows. Now, is Anthony back with us, Mr. Producer? Okay, Anthony might have problems with his phone, so let me continue. Police were pelted by snow in Washington Square Park, and Mayor Zohan Madami shrugged off the police officers' injuries Monday after a snowball fight turned vicious when an unruly crowd started to pelt the cops with snowballs. The critics of the mayor said the mob attack on New York City police officers is the direct consequence of the lawless culture that Zohan Madami and his radical left have spent years cultivating. When you vilify police, you empower the mob. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said New York City police were investigating the matter, and the officers were struck in the head and at close range with snowballs, causing injuries to the head, face, and neck area. The officers were transported by EMS in stable condition to Northwell Greenwich Village Hospital for treatment, according to the NYPD. Now, Mandami, in a break from Tisch, said that police officers' union appeared committed to portraying the snowy attack as something more innocent. After acknowledging that two officers were facing lacerations on their face, Mandami told reporters the people who tossed the snowballs were kids and declined to entertain the possibility any adults were involved. I can tell you from the video I saw, it looked like kids in a snowball fight, he said. Now, Patrick Hendry, president of PBA, which represents the rank and file officers, described Mandami's response as a complete failure of leadership. This was not a snowball fight, Hendry said. This was an assault by adults that landed two police officers in a hospital with head and face injuries. By ignoring their injuries and dismissing the incident, the mayor has sent a disgraceful message to every police officer who serves the city and a dangerous message to every person who might be looking to attack a police officer in the future. And in the past, mayors have gone to the hospital to visit the police officers to see how they work. But Manami hasn't. One arrest has been made, a 27-year-old male and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has dismissed the charges. The snowball thrower was identified as Guzman Colberly, and he will be charged only with misdemeanor, the obstructing governmental operations, administration, and a harassment violation. The state Republican Party is ragging on Mandami and District Attorney Alvin Bragg, saying that Mandami and Bragg are New York City's axis on anarchy. And they include things, will only get better if we fire Kathy Hochul and elect Bruce Blakeman as governor. Moving on. It appears that an armed man was shot and killed Sunday morning by Secret Service and local law enforcement officers overnight when he entered Mar-a-Lago secure perimeter. Authorities said, the Palm Beach County Sheriff said the man had a gas can and a shotgun, the latter of which he lifted up after being ordered to drop it. Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were in Washington at the time. They were not there. Around 25 Mexican National Guard officers were killed in separate strikes that took out El Mencho, the head of Mexican's fast-growing Jalisco New Generation cartel over the weekend. The takeout of one of Mexico's most wanted drug lords had triggered a wave of violence. The New York Times reports in states around the country, armed groups blocked roads and set fire to supermarkets, banks, and vehicles in one of the most widespread eruptions of turmoil in the nation's recent history. The U.S. had warned citizens currently in Mexico to shelter in place until further notice. Now, some more Zohan Madani. New York City public schools were closed Monday thanks to the 9th biggest blizzard in New York City history. 20 inches of snow fell in Central Park and the Bronx. It's the first time city kids have gotten an old school snow day without remote learning since 2019, Mayor Zohan Madani said. Because of the blizzard, Madani instituted a citywide travel ban, shutting all roadways and bridges to non-essential traffic from 9 p.m. Sunday through noon Monday this past week. New York City public schools opened Tuesday with about 63% of students showing up for classes, and schools chancellor Kamar Samuels told reporters during a briefing the typical attendance usually hovers in the 80s. Some 12,000 teachers out of 78,000 teachers were absent, and the chancellor said, adding that 5,000 substitute teachers filled in. The school system also received 78 complaints about bus delays and disruptions. New York City Council member Frank Morano, who represents Lower Staten Island, said schools in his district were operating at about 15 to 20% attendance. If you're a property owner, Zohan Madani's administration is slapping property owners with composting fines that his predecessor paused, the New York Times reports. And black homeowners say Madani's proposal to raise property taxes would drive them out of New York City, according to the New York Post. Zohan Madani's campaign to pressure Governor Kathy Hochul to back a tax hike on the rich, its New Yorkers, is falling flat, leaving it up to his ardent left-leaning supporters in Albany to pursue the moderate Democratic to flip-flop. That's the governor, moderate Democratic governor, to flip-flop and change her ways and tax the rich. In his State of the Union speech Tuesday night, President Donald Trump praised Madani as a nice guy, even though he's a communist. Madani's administration said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card, Trump said to roars from Republicans in the House chamber, yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of all, voting in America. Now, there is a new thing that was passed by the people. It's called ELERP. The mayor's office announced that the first ever use of the expedited land use review procedure, a new 90-day approval process meant to slash timelines for affordable housing projects. The streamlined approval process for similar developments is being implemented in response to housing ballot measures passed last November. That was, I believe, ballot proposal number 2 that passed. Powerhouse Apartments at 351 Powers Avenue in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx is the first project on the expedited track of affordable housing development planned for a city-owned parking lot in the South Bronx. The project will include more than 84 affordable units, with 30 units reserved for formerly homeless New Yorkers. To tackle the housing crisis, we will use every tool in our arsenal to build housing more quickly, Housing Commissioner Dina Levy said. We will cut red tape wherever possible. Fast-tracking developments has been a central theme for Madami in recent days under the city's uniform land use review procedure. Affordable housing projects can take at least 200 days to clear approvals before construction begins, with even simple projects forced through a years-long gauntlet of approvals and paperwork costing millions of dollars. The only projects that get built are the ones backed by developers with the deepest pockets. The expedited process collapses that timeline to 90 days. Community boards and borough presidents review projects simultaneously for 60 days, followed by a 30-day review by the City Planning Commission. City officials said it preserves public input while eliminating redundancies. Powerhouse has faced delays. A 2022 community report shows strong demand for extremely low-income housing at the site. The city issued a request for proposal late that summer. Since then, the project has moved slowly through the early planning stages. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development told Playbook that future projects will move into review a little faster, or a lot faster, with less back and forth between the agencies. And I'm just going to say, for the past 4 weeks, I've been ragging on the Bronx Times for not putting in a retraction or an apology for saying that one of the three women that I know, and I had one of them on the show, Rochelle Mendino, and she said, no, we did not stick our middle finger out at public advocate Jumaane Williams. This is the photo that the Bronx Times took. You can clearly see it's the second finger. And when you turn, your second finger sometimes looks like a middle finger the way you turn it. So, Bronx Times, when are you going to print that retraction or apologize to Rochelle? And I'm going to close with a little piece on Willie Colon, who I knew. I worked on his 2000 campaign for Congress. The legendary musician Willie Colon, one of the most iconic figures in salsa and the New Rican salsa movement, died Saturday at the age of 75. His family confirmed in a message posted on his social media accounts. He was receiving medical attention for reported respiratory complications. It is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved husband, father, and renowned musician, Willie Colon. He departed peacefully this morning, surrounded by his loving family. The statement posted on Facebook reads, although we mourn his absence, we also rejoice in the eternal gift of his music and cherish memories it created, which will live on forever, his family added. William Anthony Colon Roman, a musician of Puerto Rican descent, was born on April 28, 1950 in the South Bronx of New York City. At 16, he recorded his first album, El Meleo, with Hector Lavoe in 1967. Together, they formed one of the most important salsa duos on the Fania record label. In 1969, his Chichi Cola was a pivotal moment in the Afro-Caribbean conquest of popular music in Latin America. Although some resisted accepting it, his famous Ghanaian song with a Puerto Rican bamba rhythm became a salsa classic. In 1977, he introduced Ruben Blades, his good friend, to the recording industry with the album Metadino Manio, and collaborated together in the years to come. In 1979, he launched his solo career. He was nominated 8 times for Grammy Awards in the tropical music category. He also acted in film and television productions such as Vigilante, The Last Fight, Salsa, Miami Vice, and the telenovela La Intrusta. Willie Colon boasted an impressive biography with over 40 albums, earning him 9 gold records, 5 platinum records. He sold more than 8 million records worldwide with 16 LPs to his credit, including collaborations with Laveau, 6 with Blades, and 4 with Celia Cruz. His record as an activist is equally impressive. Willie Colon was recognized for his socio-political activism as readily as his music genius. His endorsement was coveted among New York politicians. Willie's last performance was on August 9th, 2025, in a sold-out concert in San Juan with the Puerto Rican Philharmonic Orchestra. Goodbye, old friend, until we meet again. And that's it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week here on Talking Politics. Thank you.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for